I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, everybody. Here we are. We're trying out something new now. This is a whole new day for us. Seems like I've got a little bit of a delay here. Let me see here. I gotta figure something out. Hopefully that's gonna work a little bit better. Oh my, I knew that we would have run into some sort of issues with this sort of thing. So let's see. Is everybody hearing everything all right? I'm gonna ask you all. I'm gonna do let me try something else here real quick. Yikes. Hopefully everything's gonna be working out. I'm just running into something completely new. I'm sorry, of course, this is the way the very first show is gonna end up going, so, um, uh, okay, okay. So hopefully we'll get that all figured out. Okay. Everybody says everything sounds great. Alright, so excellent, excellent. Again, just like yesterday, probably just issues on my end. But again, that's just the way things are gonna go here for us as we're getting everything launched right now. So I wanna thank everybody for joining us here on the Let's Get Growing show. We are doing a new Sunday edition today. Today's going to be a new whole thing for us so that we can kind of expand on some of the really great things that we got started with this last year on the show. We had lots and lots of really great guests on our show this last year. So with all of the new guests that I've been inviting and trying to get booked in for our show for this year, I've been wanting to find a way to fit in some of our previous guests. So that's going to be something we're going to do as we move forward here on the Sunday of the edition of the show. The whole idea kind of started with the idea of doing a roundtable, a kind of a topical discussion on different gardening subjects with a couple of different folks who've been on our show before. And again, hopefully we'll kind of create some sort of regional differences so we can kind of really get a good idea about the different things that we all do in our gardens and to take care of everything. And we all have kind of different ways of doing that. So I think it's going to be a great idea for us to be able to kind of have a cool, fun topical discussion surrounding those sort of things. And that's what we'll be doing with our Sunday edition show on a few of our weekends. But we do have a couple of weekends each month where we're going to do something that's going to be the same every weekend, except for this first month. This first month, we're kind of doing it a little bit backwards, but we'll have everything reverted and right into normal next month. So this week being the second Sunday of the month, we are doing what is going to be our monthly gardening book club. We got a monthly gardening book club we're going to start up. We're going to talk a little bit more about all of that here just a little bit later on the show, with our good friend Marc Boucher-Colbert. He's joining back with us again here on the show. So I'm really excited about having him on the show here and getting to discuss all these sort of great books and everything that we both really, really enjoy. We'll also be bringing Marc back again too for our In the Garden segment that Marc started for us this last year. And because he had to step away for some family issues and things like that, we're really excited about having him back again this year. So really, really great. So we will join with Marc here in just a few more minutes. So this book club, though, will next month be on the third Sunday of the month. So it will move to the third Sunday. Okay. And then next week on the show, we are going to have with us each and every second Sunday, which will be next week, the third Sunday, but each and every second Sunday of the month, starting in April, we will have joining with us each and every month our good friend Scott Wilson from the Gardener Scott channel. Scott's going to join up with us for a really fun Q&A discussion about all sorts of things going on in the gardening world. And again, we're going to try to keep some of those discussions a bit topical, but we are going to kind of, have it more of just a really great open Q&A where you guys can come and ask almost any gardening question that's on your mind at that time. I mean, Gardener Scott is really one of those guys who I turn to learn a lot about the things that I do in my garden. I've been following him for years, and he's just a really, really great source of some really awesome gardening knowledge. So we're going to tap into that each and every second Sunday of the month, but it'll be next Sunday where we're going to get to introduce him for that Sunday segment. And so that's going to be just really fun. I think this Sunday edition is going to be a really great addition to what we've already been doing with the Let's Get Growing show. And again, it's just a really great opportunity as well too to have another show, some more time slots for all of these just really great guests that we've had on our show already. So I'm really looking forward to some of these gardening roundtables as well too. I think we're going to start with our first gardening roundtable, should be that fourth Sunday, which should be, I think, the 24th of the month. So the 24th of this month, we will be actually celebrating what will be the first day of spring, which will be basically our first week of spring. And we'll be celebrating that, as I do almost each and every year, with my good friends, Christopher Bransdahl. He'll be joining us from his grow room all the way out there in Norway. And we'll also have with us our good friend Kang Star from the Kang Star channel on YouTube, and he's joining us from Texas, and we'll be getting together to talk all about spring and the upcoming growing season and all of that. And that'll just kind of kick off what will be our gardening roundtables. So that's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to all of that coming up. And let's see here. Let's check in with everybody and see who we got in our live stream today. And of course, right at the top, we've got our good friend Jay. Jay in the comments there, moderating for us, the best moderator on YouTube. So really, really awesome to have Jay with us, dropping in links and helping keep the discussion flowing and all of that. Jay does such an awesome job. So thanks again, Jay, for being here. And let's see here. Oh, and we got our good friend and longtime viewer and supporter, Nancy Hood, joining with us. All right. Excellent. And John Jude, thank you for joining with us here. And John says, we got Jay Dixon, should be fine. That's right. We know we're in good hands, right? And let's see here. Heather Fox, thank you for joining with us. Great to have you here with us on our live stream today. And Wickershire Project Off Grid. Yeah, let's grow. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. All right. And let's see. Looks like we've pretty much got everybody in there. Awesome to see all of you there. And again, too, jump into the comment section if you haven't already. If you're just joining with us there, let us know you're here. Let us know what you've got growing on. If you got any questions or anything like that, I'll be trying to keep an eye on the chat there so we can talk about any of your sort of questions or comments or anything like that that you might have. And definitely, if you do, put them in there and we might feature them on the show. Okay. Also, real quick too, before we get moving on, I do want to give a huge shout out, like we do at the top of the show, each and every show, to all of our replay viewers who are watching us on the replay. Thank you so much for coming and checking out our show. And if you can, jump down in the comments below, leave us a comment, a question, any ideas. We are going to be talking about our book club for the month this month. So if you have any ideas of any authors or books or anything like that that you might like to see featured on our monthly book club, definitely give us some suggestions so that we can possibly get some of your favorite authors in the gardening community on the show. So definitely do that there. And of course, click the like button, hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and please do share and let everybody know about our show. Excellent, excellent. And all right, so right off the bat here, we are going to start the show off with our what will be our first segment that we're going to do each and every Sunday, and this will be our in the garden segment. And one thing I'll let you know too about the in the garden segment, it will be mostly Mark, and Mark will join with us either live for our book club month. We'll talk with him live about in the garden subjects. And then we also, Mark has a really great gardening course, what they didn't teach you in gardening school. So we're going to show clips of that here and there as well too, to kind of show you a little bit more about some of the lessons and things that Mark teaches there too. And then about once a month or so, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to show you a little bit what's going on in my garden for the segment as well too. So we'll kind of mix it up just a little bit for what will be our in the garden segment, but let's check that out here. All right. So that's our introduction for our good friend, Marc Boucher-Colbert, back again on the show.
Back in the saddle with Enoch here. Happy to be here, Enoch. This is a great pleasure.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, again, so glad to have you back here on the show to do the in the garden segment with us. Mark, you're just one of those people I really admire so much, to being a garden educator. You're out there teaching America's future generations all about growing and gardening and all of these sort of wonderful things. And I've had the pleasure to visit you at your school. I've seen you up in the rooftop gardens at the Noble Rot. That's where we first met. And just a really, you have a ton of really great gardening knowledge, and it's going to be really awesome to be able to tap back into that again through this in the garden segment throughout the season.
Well, it's fun. It's going to be fun to be in conversation with you about all these great topics and things that we love. And then to be, hearing from other guests too. One of your skills, Enoch, is just networking, and you gather just a wide range of people with expertise. So I'm excited about learning myself. So I'm buckled up, ready to go for another season. Here we go.
All right. Yes, exactly. So one of the things that we're going to try to continue on with, and that's kind of what we're doing today, is just kind of explain what people can expect with our in the garden segment this year. And as I was just introducing, it's kind of laying out how we're going to kind of diversify it a little bit, kind of change it up just a little bit throughout the weeks. And Is there anything that you're looking forward to as far as coming back and being able to present as far as the In the Garden segment?
Well, you mentioned I garden up at the rooftop of Noble Rot, which is a wine bar in Portland, restaurant and wine bar. Been doing that for 17 years, and then out at the school garden at Franciscan Montessori Earth School, also for 17 years, gardening at home. So between those three places, there's always something interesting going on. So I am just looking forward to featuring all of it. The rooftop gardening is pretty much all about container gardening. So that's a kind of a
Yeah.
passion of mine. And I think that although not a lot of people have rooftop gardens, everybody has some kind of container with something growing in their house. So that's
Yeah.
got universal applicability. Yeah, we'll just be looking at all the common things like stuff like just irrigation, compost systems, soil preparation, fertilization, tools. These things are just the stuff of everyday gardening, but there's always little improvements. There's always the latest little technology. There's the little fix. It's just fun to be able to try to increase our efficiency, our yield. We're just going to see how the season plays out, right? With all its highs and lows.
Yeah, yeah. Again, too, so many different things that are going on throughout the gardening season. And again, too, that's one of the things I'm really trying to gear into with the Sunday idea of our show, is to really kind of try to be as topical as possible about things that are going on at that time in the garden. So I definitely know that's something we're going to really kind of dig into as we move forward. Let's see here. Let's talk just a little bit too about we're going to do, kind of just to kind of make it a little bit easier in the long run to make this segment a little successful, but we're going to share a bit of your lessons that you have from your online course, what they didn't teach you in gardening school. You want to tell us a little bit more about that course?
Yeah. So this is I collaborated with this course with a wonderful creative woman named Ann Parmenter, who's a friend of mine, and she and I made a kind of a quirky, fun course. I think it's a 10-episode course. Again, it touches on different systems. There's one chapter or one segment called "How to Get Rid of Plastic," and I look in there at soil blocks and like how to even make these soil balls. I don't know if I invented that or if it just was, it's been probably invented numerous times. But I was like, hey, you don't need the block maker,
because all you're doing is pressing them, right? When you're making the thing, you're just pressing and compressing them, right? So if you can get enough strength together in those palms, right?
Yeah, and so I've grown great tomatoes and peppers and soil balls, so that's kind of fun. If you want to, you can be just done with plastic. You don't need plastic pots anymore. We did a good chapter on light and what kind of light, because that's a concern of gardeners, growing things indoors, getting ready for the season. What kind of lights you're going to grow? I even did a rap about microgreens. I didn't have time to do a whole segment on microgreens, but that's a passion of mine too. But I did get inspired and come up with a rap on it, and just kind of so there's some fun little offbeat stuff in there, and hopefully some solid tips as well for the I would say it's a kind of targeted towards somebody who's got a little bit of experience, maybe not just starting out, but a little bit of experience, 1 or 2 seasons at least. You've been around once or twice, and you might have some questions. You might benefit from some of these tips if you've already tried gardening a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely fun, as you said. And I think that's one of the things I really love about your personality, is you're just so open and fun, and you create this energy around growing and gardening that I think is just really amazing. So it's going to be really fun to kind of catch up with some of those garden lessons in your what they didn't teach you in gardening school. And I believe Jay was really great there and dropped a link for us in the comments section there. So if you want to go check that out before we get this segment rolling for the season, definitely go and check that out. There's a bunch of really, really great stuff in that course. And then as well too, like I said, I'm going to try to get into my garden a little bit this year too. So it was one of the things that we kind of did as you had to move on last season, as I tried to do the in the garden for a little while there too. And so we're gonna just kind of reprise that all and kind of tag team this together, because I think between the both of us, I think we've got some really cool garden spaces to be able to show people and to be able to enlighten people on some different things when it comes to growing. And especially, again, too, you mentioned, like containers and that sort of thing as well too, and that's really kind of my specialty. That's
Mhm.
really what I do here on our channel. So we'll be talking about a lot about all of that sort of stuff as well too, to help people to be able to grow in whatever space that you possibly have. I mean, some of us are very limited with the space that we have, so we'll try to get and dig into all sort of aspects of gardening when it comes down to it, and try to keep it as as kind of beginner as possible, as we can, to help people out with some of the more essential things as far as garden knowledge and everything, but also, kind of tapping into some of those things that we really need to know and might be just maybe a little more advanced, but we're not going to get too advanced.
Well, it's like you're always circling around the basics anyway, no matter how many times you've gone through it. And
Yeah.
what comes to mind is the drummer from Rush, Neil Peart. I think he went and at one point in his career he totally changed his stick style. So I think he had to relearn everything, basically start over with a whole new style. So sometimes you kind of go down a certain path, even if you've been gardening 10, 15, 20 years, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, I got a better way here. And then you just restart. So you almost have to be ready to become a beginner no matter what stage you're at, right? I mean, and like I said,
Yeah.
we're always spiraling around those same basic things. I mean, you're going to be dealing with compost. You got to be looking at soil fertility. You got to be looking at watering and irrigation. You got to be knowing about harvest regime. So it's the same stuff. You just kind of keep looking at it from different perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be great too. And again, too, we'll get some really cool views, hopefully, from the rooftop garden up on Noble Rot. One of my favorite visits I've done. I've got to go up there a few different times with you. And I just love that idea about, rooftop gardening. This was one of the things that really fascinated me early on in my gardening experience, because I had a simple rooftop here.
Yeah.
I got a simple flat carport rooftop that when I first started doing my gardening channel, I was utilizing these wicking earth buckets, which is
Yep.
a big feature. Which is a big feature of our channel. Yeah. And we had a whole, I think by the time I ended up having to end that project, I had somewhere between 30 and 40 plants up there, mostly pepper plants. So it was like my rooftop pepper garden is what I had up there. And so, having that, being up on the rooftop and doing all that sort of stuff kind of really, really push this fascination for me of growing on rooftops. And I was doing a lot of research and looking into rooftops, and that's when I discovered the Noble Rot and that rooftop garden there in Portland. So it was really kind of a really great chance situation to meet someone who's become such a great friend. But yeah, it's really going to be good to be able to check out some of those views from the rooftop.
Well, Enoch, one thing that we share, even in our names, you're the urban gardener, I'm Urban Ag Solutions. So we're both dedicated to gardening right in the city where we find ourselves. And as much as I do, sometimes space is a limitation in the city, or there may be soil contamination and such. So rooftops can be great spaces. You claim an unused portion of the city infrastructure, and you can claim that for gardening. So yeah, we met on a rooftop. So that's I think that's always gonna have some live energy for us there.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And it's going to be really fun. I hope everybody starts coming in and joining in with us on these Sunday editions so that we can check out this in the garden segment and be able to see all of these really cool garden spaces that not only does Mark grow in, the several different spaces we mentioned, the school, the rooftop, his own home gardens. You got your own little urban garden around your house as well too, right?
Oh yeah. Lots of fruit trees, lots of vegetables. So yeah, get a good harvest off of that every year.
Yeah, same here. So, and that's one of the things too we're going to be doing here as well, is expanding my gardens around because I've got some really unique spaces that I really excited about showing everybody and for those who followed my channel have seen them through my videos and things like that. But those of you who are watching our show, we'll get out and show you some of our alleyway urban spaces as well too, as we utilize unused city spaces to grow and expand our production and our harvests and all of that sort of stuff. As some of us who are limited in space, sometimes we've got to reach out just a little bit further, and maybe even I'll get down and do a segment from one of our community gardens around here as well too, to kind of
Yeah.
introduce people to community gardening too, because that's another thing for folks who are limited with spaces as well too. And then of course we're going to talk a lot about some traditional gardening as well too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We'll touch on it all. Why not get it all in, right?
That's right. That's right.
Let's honor,
Right.
let's honor all the different ways people are doing gardens. There's just so many. There's such a diversity of ways to do this thing that we all love. So let's hear from it all.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. Awesome. So awesome. I can't wait for us to get moving on. And again, today we're just kind of just doing the rundown. We're just giving kind of an introduction to what everybody can expect as we move forward each and every Sunday here on the new Sunday edition of our Let's Get Growing show. And again, too, it's going to just a real big welcome back, Mark, and just really great to have you here again for this segment.
Thanks, Enoch. Yeah, I'm really excited. We'll have some fun together.
Yes, we will. All right. So, real quick here, we're going to just take just a real quick little short break, and then we're going to come back here and we're going to talk about our brand new monthly book club here in just a few minutes. So,
The
well,
NBC.
yes, that's right. NBC with MBC. Our monthly book club with Marc Boucher-Colbert. Yes, indeed. Really looking forward to it. We'll be back here in just a few minutes, and then we'll jump into that, as well as we'll also talk about today's book giveaway and next month's book club book.
Yeah. All right. See you soon.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. Oh. Again, just having real fun with all of our screens today. First shows, that's for sure. That's going to be the theme for today, our first show. But anyways, this is just going to be a real fun kind of rundown, like I was mentioning there with Mark, about all of the different things that we're going to be doing here on the Sunday edition. So we're just kind of having a free flowing fun day right here, kind of talking about everything. So I guess a little mishap here and there isn't too bad. So real quick, I wanted to jump back into the comments here and welcome some. We've got Riverdale Gardens with us. Awesome to see you here with us. Great to have you here for our discussion. And of course, we've got Sam Posnick with us. We got here Cloudy with a chance of soil block meatballs here. I love that. That's what Wickershire was saying there too. Meatball soil blocking. I love it. That's really great. That's really great. Hey, and it really works too. I'm telling you, you know, I mean, if you got the press, that's really great. But if you got enough strength in your hands, you could totally press those out yourself. And I'm sure we're going to get to see that in one of our future in the garden segments there with Mark coming up here in the coming weeks. And we've also got with us David Gray here, thunderstorm hot peppers. Okay, let's see here. All right. So, again, too, like I said, we're just kind of talking about all the different things that we've got growing on here for our Sunday edition today. As I was mentioning at the beginning of the show, we're kind of diversifying and we're trying to do, kind of a mix of things on Sunday. Saturdays, Let's Get Growing show is pretty much, a solid. You're going to get what you expect every single Saturday with our, with our, featured guest that we have, and then our Are You Following Me segment that opens up the show with some smaller channels, Instagrammers, all sorts of folks, TikTokers, podcasters, all sorts of different people in the gardening community in the Are You Following Me segment, and then followed with the featured guest. And if anybody didn't have a chance to check out yesterday's show, we had an amazing first show, great launch with a really great gardener and YouTube channel, Nate Meary from Garden Like a Viking. And just a really, really awesome discussion with Nate. And it was just a really great show. So if you haven't had a chance to go check that out yet, go and check out that. You can find that on our YouTube homepage. And just again, really fun start to the whole year. We had a really great audience, just a really, really fun discussion throughout the day. So really awesome to have Nate back. Nate was our most watched show of last season, so it was really great to have him back for our first show of this season. So again, too, and look forward to lots more really great guests on our Saturday show. And I will mention real quick too that next week's show, we're going to have Jenna from Growfully with Jenna. We'll have Jenna on our show for next Saturday's featured guest, and really, really excited about having Jenna on the show. She's a really awesome gardener, has a really awesome channel. And as well as Jenna too, we will be having on our Are You Following Me segment. We'll have a channel called Sow and Tear. I met Sow and Tear at the National Heirloom Exposition this last fall, and so it's gonna be really great to be able to see her again on our Are You Following Me segment for this next week. And so be sure to join with us on Saturdays. And of course, again, on next Sunday, as we'll have with us our good friend Gardener Scott, as I mentioned just a little bit earlier in the show, to do a live Sunday Q&A and be able to dig in and answer all of your gardening questions. So if you've got anything you need to know or any sort of questions about something going on in your garden or anything like that, be sure to come and join with us for our live Q&A with Gardener Scott. Gardener Scott will be joining with us every second Sunday of the month, starting next month. All right. And let's see here. I want to make sure I'm looking in here. All right. I'm going to save this one here. Okay, let's look into what we've got going on here. I want to thank everybody again to talk with us today on our show. Just try to catch up a little bit what's going on in our comment section again too. If you are here and you haven't jumped into the comment section, definitely jump into our comment section. Let me know what you've got growing on. Let me know what's going on there. And two, again, we are going to be jumping into our Book of the Month Club segment here in just a moment. And if you do have any authors or anything like that that you would like to suggest for us, jump in the comments as well as our chat box there too. Let us know if there's any authors or any of your favorite gardening books that you might like to see on our show. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think that's about time. Let's get right into it then. And let's get started with what we're going to do, our new gardening. All right. And back again with us here, we've got our friend Marc Boucher-Colbert. Yeah, here we are.
Let's do this book group, Enoch. This is going to be fun.
Oh man, I'm really, really excited about this. One of the things I wanted to mention right off the top of the right here, before we really get started, we do have a contest today. We're going to do a giveaway today. So anybody who's looking to get what will be our very first gardening book of the month, and you want to get one of the giveaways for our gardening book of the month. In fact, the author is going to get us a signed copy of this book for our winner today. So if you are here today, right now, jump into the comment section and just put in hashtag book club. Just that right there. Put that into the comment section, hashtag book club. And our studio here, StreamYard, actually has a really cool little giveaway feature. And so we'll run through some of those there later on at the end of the show, in the end of this segment here, and we'll do a giveaway. But you want to announce to us, everybody, who our very first book club author and book is, Marc?
Yeah, I mean, let me just back up and say, Enoch and I, you and I have been trading texts all week about how excited we are about this book club. And, for me, I read a lot of garden books. I have a lot of garden books. I buy a lot of garden books and stack them up, hoping to read them. I just love garden books. I love books, but garden books especially are just so important. Such a great source of learning and inspiration. I mean, literally, sometimes just having a garden book in my hands is inspiring. I mean, I get inspired to think, even if it has nothing to do with what I'm going to do in the garden, it just, the fact that somebody made something beautiful and it looks awesome, it just makes me want to get out there and do more beautiful, awesome things in the garden. But, having the book club is just, it's kind of a commitment and a way of plugging this ongoing learning into, for me and for you, our lives and anybody who joins us. So it's kind of just this thing where it's just like, yeah, I want to do this. Sometimes it's a little hard to make the time, but having the book club makes me make the time. So that's what I love about this thing. It's going to be like, we are just kind of going on this journey together, and with all the folks who are going to be accompanying us.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be really exciting. And no matter the time of the season, it's always the right time for learning, right? You're always to pick up some new tips wherever you're at. It's not just like, let's wait till the winter when we have time. It's like, no, when you're live, when it's going, when you're in the press of the season, you still need to be learning. That's a great time to be learning new things. So I think you'd share this sentiment, Enoch. I hope that a lot of folks will join us in this, because it's just going to be such an exciting adventure together. The other thing that makes this book group totally unique, I think, is that you, with all your connections, Enoch, are just going to line up. We're basically going to choose books where you have a connection with the author, or in your bold, courageous style, you just reach out to the author. Hey, we want to do this. You want to join us? So we're pretty much going to have every single book. We're going to have the author with us as a guest, as part of the book group. I mean, what other book groups does that happen in? I don't know of any other ones. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, and I think that was kind of one of the, the great things about this idea and everything. In fact, when I was originally thinking about this whole show, in fact, was when I was thinking of like, what could we possibly do? What are interesting ideas? And book club actually was one of those first original ideas that I was thinking about. It was just about how to implement, how to do that sort of thing. And I'm glad that we finally come back around to it again this year, because again, like you said, and as anybody can see right around me, this is only maybe half of my gardening books that I've got right here with me. I enjoy books. I've been a book reader since a young kid. I just love books. You know, there's just something about having that, you know, that book in your hand, flipping through pages that you just don't get when you're searching web pages, when you're doing these sort of things.
No, no.
Yeah. And so, and again, too, hopefully, and like I said, we're going to make sure that each and every month that we're going to have those authors on with us in order to kind of, you know, really kind of have a really great book club. I mean, what kind of, even in regular book clubs, you know, you don't necessarily get your author with you to be able to do that. So and what we're going to do too here is again, we'll come to announcing our first book here in a moment, but is that we'll announce the very first book basically at the end of our show each and every month, so that everybody knows the next month's book. We'll do that sort of thing. Way everybody has a great opportunity to get that book yourself. You can read that book yourself. You can follow along with us, and we can do that. In fact, I also encourage everybody to go to our Facebook group. And I'm gonna down in the links down in the description too. There's a link to our Facebook group. That's a great way to interact with the show and everything through that sort of thing there too. And so we'll kind of talk about that sort of stuff in the books and that sort of thing too as well through that that group as well too throughout the month. So we'll be able to have kind of a continuing discussion about it a little bit, and then when we're all done with the book at the end of the month and we got the author with us, we'll be able to just really dig in and talk about that and interview the author. And with a live show like this and everybody getting to participate, you all get to come with us too. You get to ask the author questions and all of that. And after you've actually read the book as well too.
Yeah. So, you know, so getting to our book here, we're kind of building up to this book, right? It's a story before the actual, you can't give it away too fast. I did flash it real quick, but nobody can read it. Anyway, so you know, one of the things that I think about when I encounter a book is behind every incredible book, incredible, awesome book, garden book or otherwise, is an incredible, awesome person, right? I mean, these books were written by people, and in a kind of a bookstore environment, you sometimes miss that. It's just something you pull off the shelf. You're interacting with the pages, et cetera, et cetera. But when you do get to interact with the person, there's just an incredible added dimension and an incredible added richness. And that's how this. So, okay, here's the book. Our first book is How to Forage Wild Foods Without Dying. I love that. I love that title. What would we get?
Yes, without dying.
It's by Ellen Zakos. And so I just went to the Northwest Flower and Garden Show up in Seattle. I love that show. It's a great time. We've gone a couple of times, Enoch, you and I. Great fun up there. Got a couple of videos on the top 10 things to see up there, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
One of the things that's awesome about that garden show is it runs 5 days. They have 3 large rooms with stages and projectors and such. And basically from about 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. for 5 straight days, they have experts and authors lecturing about some aspects of gardening. So literally you could go up there in 5 days, you could get like a 3 or 4 years curriculum of horticulture and gardening if you just sat through all those talks and just absorbed all that stuff. It's really amazing. I mean, it is astonishing the number of people they bring together. So this year I did see on a topic, you know, how to forage wild foods without dying. I thought that was kind of fun and intriguing. And so I went, and Ellen Zakos was just an amazing speaker. She's so well-spoken, so interesting, so engaging, humorous. She's got all these funny little anecdotes. She's, you know, very knowledgeable in her field. That's all puns intended. So I recommended it to Enoch that we really feature this book, and especially in the spring. You know, one of the things I do with my students quite a bit is we roam around our school grounds looking for some of these AKA weeds that are actually really nutritious wild foods. Like three that we just harvested the other day were dandelion leaves, miner's lettuce, and chickweed. And
Yeah.
those are the things that you're eager to yank out of your garden. But believe me, they're way better for you than any lettuce you're going to plant. They're just have
Yeah.
nutrients. So this book is, I think it's timely. It's going to be a great, just a chance to explore a little bit of the wilder side of nature. It's not necessarily us doing it. That's the
Yeah.
bonus. When you forage, you don't have to plant, tend, or do anything, and yet you still get all the benefits from it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what it was, when you made that suggestion, I thought that was just going to be a great idea and a great way for us to, a great book for us to really, really get into because, again, too, urban gardening, in some sense, there's a lot of things growing on around us that,
Yeah,
like you mentioned, we don't have to plant, we don't have to do the work. So in some sense, it's not necessarily gardening. This is more harvesting and that sort of thing. But again, too, what we're doing in our gardening is growing our own food. And a good way to supplement some of the nutrition and things that we can get in our food is by foraging some of these wild plants that as you say, can be just highly nutritious, more than what we've ever thought about when we think about weeds. you
yeah,
know
yeah,
I'll just share one quick story. I remember, and this was way before I'd done any sort of food gardening or anything. I mean, again, I've always grown indoor house plants,
yeah.
but I was in my young 20s. I think this was one of me and my wife's um, anniversaries back then, and we went on this really great um, dinner. It was a dinner train out of Seattle, Washington, and just this really great evening. You're riding this train. It's taking you through the city, the cityscapes and all of that sort of stuff, and just really elegant. It's just we're talking about 5-star fine dining here, right? And this is something that the two of us were not. This was a very special event. You know what I mean? Something that we wouldn't normally do, and so that sort of environment was very, very new to us. But I remember we're sitting there for getting ready for dinner entrees to start going, and of course the salad is one of the first things that comes out, right?
Mhm.
And I remember when they put that salad out in front of us, both me and my wife looked down at those salads and looked back up at each other and went, "What is this?" Right? And I tell you why we said that though, is because when we looked down in our salad, what did we see? We saw dandelions.
Yeah, it's like
Dandelion flowers looking up at us from our salads. And we were like, what in the world are dandelion? We were like, we could get dandelions out of our own front yard. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
those 5-star chefs know what they're doing though, and they know that these dandelions are what they have to offer and everything, and we had no clue. But it took me years and years later getting into gardening and learning a little bit more about foraging and all of that before I really started to understand, wait a minute, now I get it.
exactly. Yeah. Stuff is like, and literally, some of this stuff may be a little bit more advanced, but like I said, many of these wild plants are just growing as weeds in our own garden. So we're having to contend with them anyway. We're going to be pulling them up no matter what, pretty much. So it's like, why not pull them up and put them in your salad bowl? You're getting a free crop.
Yeah. Exactly. It's again too, no work. No, all you got to do is go out and get it, and that's all you got to do. Bring it in the kitchen and start using it. No other extra work. And I think that's one of the great things about foraging. And I'm really, really excited about this book. For this very first book club. And what I want to mention to everybody, while Mark was talking there just a minute ago, I had totally forgot, but I did get it into the description below. There's a link to the book. So if you want to go get this book by Ellen Zakos, How to Forage for Wild Foods Without Dying, go click on that link there so that you can get one of those copies of that book yourself. And also, too, if you're all here joining with us, we do have one of these books to give away here in just a little bit at the end of the show. So be sure, if you haven't already and you're here with us, jump into the chat box there and put in hashtag book club. That's it. Just hashtag book club, and you will be entered into this contest we'll draw from just a little bit later in the show to get a signed copy of Foraging for Wild Foods Without Dying. So definitely do that. And we'll get to that here in just a little bit here. I do want to actually talk about Mark real quick. Let's make sure we get that back up here. But I do want to talk about real quick. The one thing I didn't mention in our previous segment, the In the Garden segment. The In the Garden segment is actually going to be sponsored by your
Design Your Eden.
Design Your Eden card deck.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah, that's right. Bringing
I
that.
love this idea. It's such a unique idea when it comes to gardening and garden design. So if you got anybody, I mean, especially for yourself, if you got anything you want to figure out, or you're just trying to look for new ideas or explore and find inspiration, in what you could actually do with your garden spaces, you got to check out the garden design deck here. Or if you have any friends or any garden friends that you need to get a gift for, this will make an amazingly awesome gift. You want to tell us just a little bit more about the garden design deck?
Yeah, I think, and I'm hoping we can do a book. We'll select a book at some point on garden design too, because I think, we want to jump in. We want to get our hands in the dirt. We want to get our plants going. But sometimes we miss the bigger picture. We miss like how to put it all together, or we don't feel like we have the skills to do it. I think that's part of it. It's like, oh, a designer is somebody who's, studied for years and, has a kind of an architectural background or sketching all the time, or it's somebody like that. And I couldn't really do a garden design myself. And my contention is that, yes, you can take those basic elements that you want in your yard or garden and figure out how to connect them and get your own ideas. And so in order to help people do that, I created this card deck. So it's literally a deck of cards, not playing cards, but design cards. And they have elements, values, and connectors. And there's different ways to use them such that you can generate a whole scheme for your garden. Now, that might be just pure, I want to create a garden purely for pollinators, or, it might be a little bougier. It might be like, I want some flowers, but I also want my hot tub and I want a gazebo, so you can combine all kinds of different visions at all different levels. And figure out how all those things interact and come up with a very pleasing and satisfying design. And I really do hope I'll have to start looking through some good accessible design books, because design is really something that's near and dear to my heart. And I feel like a lot of times people don't feel like they can approach it. So with this design deck, I wanted to, just have a tangible way that also seemed like fun. Because to me, fun, it's like, hey, we're playing, that's what you associate with cards. So I wanted people to have that same playful feeling when they got the cards in their hands. So hopefully we'll touch on that more. But I appreciate you bringing it to the fore right now.
Yeah. Definitely wanted to make sure we mentioned that before we move on here. And also too,
And so check out www.designyoureden, all smashed together, designyouredene.com for more info on that.
Yes, definitely. And if I do believe I might have a link in the description as well too for everybody.
Cool.
Okay. And then I did want to also mention too, last week when we were talking about and announcing the Sunday edition on our Saturday show, I did mention that we were going to have Tony O'Neill on the show for our first Garden Book of the Month Club. But Tony had a scheduling issue, and I'll just tell you the scheduling issue is that he has work that day, and he works in the evening time, and he's over in the UK. So our time for the show is the evening time for him. And I'll just mention that Tony is a firefighter. Tony is a firefighter, so he goes out there and he's fighting fires in the UK there at night. And I was totally fine with him going and saving lives instead of coming here to be a part of our book club. So we're going to have Tony back as soon as possible to talk about his new book, Simplify Vegetable Gardening. So we're going to try to get him back as soon as possible for anybody who is wondering about that.
You know, I got in preparation for today, I got a copy of this book, and then we realized he wasn't going to be able to make it. But this is a fascinating book. I am really interested in diving in more, reviewing it, and then being able to dialogue with him. You know, there's some new stuff in here. There's a different approach. There's a gajillion gardening books written, and sometimes the question I want to ask people is, why this? Why did you feel like you had to write this one? But I can already tell, looking through this, you know, some of Tony's preoccupations and his specific line of thinking. So I think it's going to be really interesting to explore that. And, you know, from what I see in here, he is a master of growing giant vegetables. So the guys get some of the systems figured out. I also think it's just really interesting, Enoch, that you've gone across the pond, so to speak, and are, you know, we're tapping some of the, you know, the Brits just have what a tradition of gardening over there, and
Yeah,
they just, you know, put us to shame. So, I'm not, they're going to put us not to shame, but they're going to put us on our game, right?
that's right.
So we're tapping all this wisdom. We're looking not just in our own little pool of gardeners over here, but going across the pond and getting some of the wisdom from other cultures and other great gardening traditions. So I think that's going to be another stimulating part of this book group. It's not just what's going on here. It's taking a kind of a global view.
Yeah, definitely. And as much global as we can go, but you know, you really can't, you know, dig into the gardening subject without including folks from the UK. And even we've got good friends from Australia as well too, you know, who join in the show. I mean, gardening, permaculture was born in Australia, so you know, those sort of things as well. So you know, so again, too, we're going to cover the whole world the best we can here on the Let's Get Growing show, whether it's our Saturday show or our Sunday show here with the book club and everything. But definitely looking forward to having Tony on to talk about that book as well. All right, Mark, let's dig into some of these other books that we have. I mean, let's.
You know what this book is, Enoch?
What you got there?
It's a blank book. It's my garden book club.
Oh, yes.
So I had this journal lying around. It's like, I am going to dedicate this to our book club here, and I'm going to just be taking notes in here. So this is going to record my journey of the thoughts I'm having while I'm reading. I'm an underliner and I'm a note taker. So for me, I want to have this right by my side with a good pen and just be like noting things down. So I'm looking forward to filling this thing up and then being able to reflect on all this great garden learning. And, you know, I always want to capture it somehow. So kind of old school, but I love this. It's kind of got a burlap cover. It's got some asparagus. It's already set up it's totally garden themed. So I'm ready to just fill it up with knowledge. Whoop.
Man, you sure got me there. You got me there, Mark. I'm telling you, I should have thought about that as I was assembling all my books to talk about too, is that this is one of the things I talk about. In fact, you know, one of the things I try to do with videos for the video portion of our channel is to do garden journals. And that's one of the things I talk about. One of your best things you can do as a gardener is to be taking notes as you're going along. Those notes are going to be invaluable later on in later seasons as you're really starting to, you know, get things figured out, you know. And so that's probably I would say one of the most important books that a gardener can have is the book you create and write yourself. Yeah, and that's a garden journal.
In the end, it's going to be your garden book, right? The one that you made, because you're responding to all these things. You're pulling out what's interesting to you. I mean, really, you know, when I read a garden book, I might be there's a Elliot Coleman, who's a great innovative farmer and gardener up in Maine. Um, he's written, New Organic Grower and a number of others, Four Season Gardener, really an inspiration early on. But one thing he noted in one of his books was the importance of one percenters. So, after you get to a certain level, you're going to have a system down, you're going to have a lot of basic knowledge. But to him, the idea that you could just become like 1% more efficient, just get that new little tip or technique that's going to move you that much forward. That he really puts a lot of emphasis on the one percenters. And I agree. So sometimes you're buying a book, it's 400 pages, it's 300 pages, it's 100 pages, whatever it is, all glossy pictures. You're flipping through. You're like, I know this, I know this, I know this. And then you get to page 50 and there's like, oh my God, I never thought to do it that way. That might be worth the whole book right there. That might send you in a different direction. And sometimes that's all we need is a one-page insight. That can be enough.
Yes, definitely. That's right. And real quick, again, I want to remind everybody who's in the chat or right now, if you're just joining with us, be sure to jump into the chat and type in #book club for your chance to win this next month's featured book by Ellen Zacco's Foraging for Wild Foods Without Dying. So I'm going to try to remind everybody here as we're talking along here. Make sure everybody who's joining with us or coming in new gets an opportunity to do that. So jump into the comments there. Type in #book club. Okay, excellent, excellent. So let's see. Again, I want to dive right into books that we are talking about today. I've got a few of them here with me. And for me, I want to first talk about some of these essential books that I use each and every year in order to plan out my garden. And this first book is a book I suggest that most people can find and if you can find one of these books, and really all you got to do too, and maybe I should have really been thinking about links here before the show. I should have put some links, but find your local gardening extension.
Mm-hmm.
Your gardening extension should, and usually they usually put out regional books.
Yeah.
They're really, really tied to your locality. And I have mine book here from my local extension called The Garden Guide for the Rogue Valley. That's where I live, is in the Rogue Valley here in Southern Oregon. And this is put out by the Oregon State University Extension. So I'm sure they put out different books throughout the Oregon State in different regions. And I'm sure there's a book just like this for you up there in Portland, right?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't, there's a couple of, not necessarily from the extension, but there's a great one. There's, Steve Solomon's book, Growing Vegetables in the Pacific Northwest, is really important. That's a great book. And then there's something put out by Seattle Tilth. That's a Northwest growing guide. And then, I'm sure there's plenty of publications. I just haven't tapped them from the extension office that give more local guides. But yeah, you're right. Even the difference, we're both in Oregon, but man, the difference, we're a few hours drive apart, but your summers are a lot hotter and drier and our conditions are different.
Yeah. Even though we're in the same state, in fact, we're probably even in the same zone. I think this is one of the misconceptions about zones, is that a lot of us are in very same zones, but have very different climates.
Yes.
Again, zones really are only telling us about how cold it's going to get in the wintertime. What is going to be our most extreme cold temperature? And that's really the information we're getting. That helps us with perennial planting. That helps us with those sort of things to ensure that they're going to survive winters in our region. And so zones, even though we're in the same zone, there's a lot of differences between our climates and the things that we can grow, when we can start them, our, first and last frost dates, for instance, and those sort of things. And I think that's a really great idea for people to do, is to go check your local extension, find a local extension and see if they have for you a regional guide to gardening in your area. It's going to be really, really helpful.
True enough.
All right. Well, and again, too, kind of keeping it regional, this was a book I got, and I've been really enjoying this. This was the first time we met up at that national or at the Flower and Garden Show up in Seattle, and I picked up this book. It's Growing Vegetables West of the Cascades.
Yeah, That's what I meant to say. Steve Solomon, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's the man.
Yes, yes. Again, another great author who hopefully maybe somebody we could talk to or something as well too. But I find this book to be really, really invaluable too. Just the it's very similar to the book I've got from the gardening extension.
Mm.
You know, this is just again, this is a look. You know, it's going to dig into all of these different areas of west of the Cascades. So they're gonna really explore all of our different regions and give you a more wider sense of our area as well too. So I find this book to be really, really invaluable as well when I'm starting and thinking about growing different things in my garden.
Yeah, I moved from New Hampshire. I started my farming journey in New Hampshire for a year, and then I moved out to the Northwest. And things were, not that I built up a lot of knowledge about gardening and farming, but I had some idea based on the rhythm of the seasons there. And then to come out here, I needed a guide, and that was my guide, Steve Solomon. He moved to New Zealand or Tasmania, I can't remember which. But that book has gone through multiple printings, and he's continued to update it, even though he lives across the world. He's a fascinating guy. His concepts. I have another book of his in my hands called The Intelligent Gardener, and this is really a more advanced look at nutrients, but he's talking about growing nutrient dense food in here. I would recommend this too. And he's got a lot of really interesting stuff on the web about older traditional farming techniques. He wrote a little book on dryland farming that was very important to me, the using very minimal amounts of irrigation for growing crops. So that guy's really worth a read at any level.
Yes, definitely. That would be, again, a really another great potential author for us to possibly have later on in the year to talk about all of that sort of stuff as well too. And again, I want to encourage you, if you are in the chat box there, let us know about some of your favorite books. What are some of your favorite books and authors as far as gardening books are concerned? And also our great moderator Jay, always in it with the links there, does have us a great link for you to find your local extension there too. So jump into the chat there, click on that link, and find your local extension as well too. So you might be able to find one of those more regional guides to your gardening area.
Enoch, I've got an old book in my hand here this is a book that I first picked up. It's called The Self-Sufficient Suburban Gardener by Jeff Ball, Rodale Press, 1983. When I first started gardening, I was at zero. I was at nothing. We didn't have a garden the only thing I remember about gardening was my grandfather had a rhubarb plant when we'd go over and visit him. That was it. We had no garden, nothing. So when I started after college, I was like, all right, even before I started, I knew I wanted to return to something more hands-on with my life. I was getting interested in country living. I had moved out to rural New Hampshire. So it was kind of all around me, but I didn't really know how to engage it. And this was the book that kind of took my hand and showed me. And, it's by some accounts an older book from 83. I don't remember the year that I got it, but what really impressed me was it had this organization system where it would show a typical suburban lot. Like, chapter 1 is just this guy staring at a blank lot.
Yeah.
Backyard. And then as you go through, it keeps elaborating. It's a whole systems approach, so in the first stage is the beginning garden. So he's got some raised beds. Let me make sure we can see that. He's got some raised beds added and a little compost bin. Then in stage 2, he's expanded the raised beds. Let's see. And all the while, this guy, Jeff Ball, is introducing the interplanting, companion planting, vertical gardening, all these. Then he's got a year-round garden. We've added a greenhouse. Well, I got to get the orange.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. And then pretty soon, by the 5th stage, what's called the ultimate backyard garden, he's added chickens, bees. He's got way more beds, crop rotation, fruit trees. And I just found that vision really enchanting, really empowering. And looking at these pictures for a long time and just like trying to study this whole thing. I'm like, wow, this really appeals to me. This is really motivating and interesting. And so,
Yeah.
in ways, besides some really cool mentors, a book launched my farming and gardening career. It's just like this was something I really could keep diving into. And it was like entering a whole exciting new world. So books, everybody who's read a fiction book and gone off somewhere in their mind and entered another world knows this already, but it can be true for gardeners too. We could just get captured by somebody's vision and
Yeah.
then live out the rest of our lives trying to achieve it. I'm still trying to achieve some of the things in this book.
Yeah, yeah. And kind of on a similar note though too, when I was first starting gardening, I was just again too kind of, just really fascinated with the idea of urban city gardening.
Mm-hmm.
Again too, we talked about rooftops and those sort of things a little bit earlier and all that. So that's really, really fascinated me. And around that time when I was first started gardening, this book was going around, and I wish I had the dust cover on it, but
Yeah.
it's actually called Farm City by
Okay.
Novella Carpenter.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She's from
Okay.
Oakland.
Oakland, yes. So this book is basically kind of like an autobiography of her experience developing and starting an urban farm on unused city space right in the heart of downtown Oakland.
Mm.
And she was doing everything sort of like what you're talking about with theirs when you're getting the whole thing, bees, and she had chickens, and she was even raising pigs on
Wow.
her farm as well too. And she tells a really funny story about the when the fig at a time when the pig was full grown, it got loose and was running down through the streets in the city, and she was yelling at people to help her to try to stop the pig from
Oh God.
making it through the city and all that sort of stuff. But again, too, it was just one of those books that really kind of, just captured my imagination with the possibilities of what you could actually do as far as farming and growing and doing things in a city. And cities are limitations to some gardeners as we look at where we're at and what we're doing. We think of how all these limitations, but by reading books and exploring the stories of other folks who have been doing this sort of stuff, we can really start to visualize these sort of possibilities that are all around us if we are living in more urban environments.
Yeah, and I bet every listener out there, and I've seen some comments flitting across, has some story like that, a book that inspired them, that's a kind of a touchstone book that they keep going back to. And that's why I think this segment's going to be pure gold, because we need these things to it's like a soul food. It's like something that's just nourishing and driving our lives forward in
Yeah.
this passion that we have. We need to keep touching back to the sources of our inspiration, and often that's through some powerful book that we read, something a vision that grabbed us.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And again, too, I mean, when I'm exploring the internet, I'm really informational based. I'm looking specifically, I'm kind of researching some sort of topic, and I'm going after a certain subject, and I just find that I get so much more from a book itself, and I'm able to really explore subjects a lot more by just sitting down and reading the book, and I think, and again, I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. I think just information translates a little bit better through reading the pages of a book.
I hope that I totally agree with you, and I hope that doesn't make us dinosaurs or old timers. But I think that there's just something vital about books. I know that I don't get it from my device. I can't get the same experience. And if I'm curled up on the couch at night with a blanket and a book in my hand and maybe some tea or some hot cocoa or something, that is just the best. That's gardening too. That's some pure gardening going on right there.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I hope everyone, even the upcoming generations, can have those experiences with books, because I think there is something that humanity's just always been fascinated with books. Libraries have always kept our wisdom, and there's just something about the act of it's because I think it's because it's a made product. You know, we all know
Yeah.
how proud we are when we make something that in the world, something that's tangible and something that's cool. And so when you get a book in your hands, you know, it's like it's hard
Yeah.
physical reality, and yet it's there. It is. It's the beautiful pages. It's the smell. It's the, you know, just it just works totally different. It's a technology, but it's a totally different kind of technology than digital.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and again, much more than, and it's, I guess, similar to that, we can carry our devices around with us. Our phones are pretty much the internet and all of that sort of stuff. But I don't know, looking at my phone screen and trying to read something, is just so much different than having this in my hand, and just being able to really kind of explore and then quickly, go back to something I was looking at, when I'm referencing something I'm seeing just a little bit later in the book. Again, it's just the actions that are involved, I think, too, are just really kind of, set it apart from being able to just use a phone or a device. And ultimately, again, too, it really is, it really is, the leadership of us older generations that has got to take place, especially in this time, in a new highly technological age, where we've got to really, help our young folks understand and carry on the traditions of books. I mean, we can't ever leave books. I mean, that's my opinion. You know what I mean? I don't think that we should really ever, I mean, so it's really kind of important that we're making sure that, we're focusing on, you know, learning through books as well as utilizing the technology that we have as well. Libraries have got to remain an important
Yeah.
place in our lives and our society.
Yeah, and you know, it really is a both and, because obviously I'm on the internet all the time checking stuff out. People's Instagram accounts, Facebook inspire me, researching all the time, you know, just get onto Google, look up stuff, but still always coming back to books as a touchstone. Uh, you know, just having been to the Flower and Garden Show, watching the people line up at the bookshop there, books are still alive and well. I think they're still speaking to people in an important way, because it's like everybody still wants them. You know, I don't have all the data on the publishing and such, but it just anecdotally, it looked like this is, you know, people still want this way of learning. They still are.
Right. Yeah. So David was, or Brampton Gardner joined us, was saying much prefer reading a real book to an ebook. And David was saying, me too, but I'm old.
I,
Well, you know what? Let's hope that us old folks can make sure we carry on this tradition and make sure we're influencing the younger folks to keep holding those tangible books in their hands and read through those pages. And I'm sure even at that point, kids who can really connect with books, I mean, they know what they're getting from that versus what they're getting out of technology.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think this is just going to be a great adventure. We're going to be looking at some excellent books. We're going to be learning together. We're going to be in dialogue with the author, which is, again, just such an amazing privilege.
Yeah.
And, you know, it'll be interesting to come to the end of this year, or the end of this, whatever the length of segments you have. And at the end, just like stand back and be like, wow, what did we just learn, man? This has been amazing. We've gone through 8, 10, 12, whatever books, and it'll be fun to just stand back and be like, wow, we advanced, we grew ourselves, you know, as gardeners. We That's the other way of let's get growing. It's like we're growing ourselves, we're growing our own minds and spirits as gardeners.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So many different ways to grow, and all of us gardeners are definitely right on top of it. I did want to kind of really explore a couple of other books here, real quick. I know that we
Yeah.
should get moving on here. I don't, again, kind of on the lines of books that I'm using each and every year. I use this book too. It's a week by week vegetable gardener's handbook by Ron Kujawski and Jennifer Kujawski. So this book has been really invaluable to me, and it's one of the things I see all the time when people are, getting started with gardening, and one of the biggest questions that's always asked is, when do I do this? When
Yeah.
do I plant seeds? When do I transplant? When do I start these versus these plants versus these other plants? And that's what this book is really great for. It's a week by week guide. And the real genius of this book is that what you do is, again, we mentioned about zones. A lot of people like to reference zones, but really what we're wanting to reference when we're talking about starting or doing a garden, the best timetable reference is our first and last frost dates.
Mm-hmm.
So this here, you utilize your last frost date, and then when you put in your last frost date, it then sets the whole week by week at that point.
Mm.
So well before, so you're getting weeks before your last frost date. But when you put in that last frost date number, it tells you what you need to be doing 8 weeks before that. You know what I mean? It tells you what you need to be doing, the weeks after that last frost date. But it goes week by week, tells you all sorts of really great stuff about individual types of plants and vegetables that you can be growing. But I think this one is really, really good for a beginner gardener who's just learning about the timing in their area, and really, really pairs well with that extension book that I was telling you about.
Cool. That sounds perfect. That kind of stuff is, and it's not only for the beginner either, because I find myself going back to those kind of books from time to time, just retouching base. Like, am I doing everything I could be doing, or am I on pace with what some of these guides say? As you grow on in gardening, I find sometimes it's a little more intuitive. I just kind of get a feel for what time of the year it is and how the weather pattern is and what I should be doing. But still, it's good to have something to cling back to even further on in your gardening journey, and just go back and check in and make sure you're covering all the bases.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, you got any other books there that you wanted to talk about?
Let me see what else I got
No.
here.
No.
This is an interesting one. It's a cookbook. This is what this again. It's an old cookbook, but this is from growing up in New England, I was exposed to a show called The Victory Garden, which was on public television, and it went through a couple of different incarnations. The first Victory Garden gardening book that I got into my hands was pretty conventional farming, agriculture, a lot of pesticide use and commercial synthetic fertilizers. But as it modernized, it kind of went a little more organic. And this woman was, I guess, married to one of the hosts of the show. And again, this is kind of I think it's a French-inspired cookbook, but it has great front pieces, like for each chapter, cauliflower, some of the in terms of the growing notes and some of the things they've learned about it in the Victory Garden. And what I find inspiring about this is, a lot of the reasons why I would want to grow a particular vegetable is because I anticipate some delicious use for it. So if I find it very helpful to have both the cultural, how to grow the vegetable, and the culinary applications together, because that gets me way more inspired, especially if it's something new. But it can also be for something old that I haven't considered some other way to use it. So a cookbook / gardening book, something like this. I mean, this is heavier on the cookbook side, but like I said, it does have a lot of information about each of the crops in terms of growing tips and such. But there's a lot of books out there like this. I'll tell one funny story from this book. Early on in my farming days, I ran a community supported farm, and we were trying to grow everything. We were just experimenting with everything, having a lot of fun trying new stuff. So of course we planted rutabagas, and I wouldn't say rutabagas are really my favorite vegetable, and I've kind of stopped growing them, but in here for rutabaga pie. So I'm like, oh God, I'm going to make rutabaga pie for dessert. So I had with my wife and my other farm partner and her husband, and I made this rutabaga pie, and I was all excited about it. And I thought it was actually okay, but nobody else at the table really seemed to like it. So that was kind of, I think rutabagas took a plunge after that, in my estimation. But I would have never even about to try rutabaga pie without this book. So it was fun. It was a fun experiment.
Yes, yes, and definitely, and that's definitely something I'm not as good at, again, through my channel and my content and everything. I've never found myself to be that great of a cook or anything like that. So it's, a little bit more for me to explore those sort of things. So I think those sort of books and those sort of things are really great resources, because that is ultimately what we're doing in the garden. If we're food gardening, is growing food. And what do you do with that food? There's, lots and lots of possibilities. Some of us are really kind of locked into certain things we do, and, getting some great, recipe books that are, about harvesting from your garden and all of that will give you ways to explore different possibilities in your kitchen.
Yeah, I think your and my favorite seed catalogs here, which also I have in hand, is the whole seed catalog,
Yes.
the Baker Creek heirloom seeds. And one of the great, this is like, it's kind of like a book in and of itself. It's a 500-page catalog, but it's basically book-like in many ways, and has many in-depth stories about the crops. But it has a lot of recipes too. And I just recently tried their beet mostarda recipe, and it was delicious. So again, it's just like these, to me, a garden book that has recipes in it is a motivational force. It just like, it makes me want to grow that thing, and maybe it's going to become a staple in my life or my kitchen, and then I'm just always going to be wanting it in my garden, because it's like, wow, once I tried that recipe, I need to have more of that. I need to have it in my life.
Yeah. Another essential book right there too. The whole seed catalog for sure.
And one thing I got to warn you, if you go on this journey with us, you're going to spend a fortune. So you're going to have to find a way to supplement your income, because it's just, there's no end to book buying. You just can justify anything. It's just like, oh man, that looks great. I'm sure I'm going to read that sometime this year. I better get all four of these, or 4 or 5 of these books that I'm attracted to, because I know I'm going to benefit from them. And of course you will.
Yeah.
Whew, the
Yeah.
cat flow.
The
That's what.
garden section of a bookstore is a great place to start blowing your budget.
Yeah, but it's all for the
It's
good.
like buying plants though too. You go to the greenhouse, you got, I've got $100 I'm gonna spend at the nursery today, right? And then you come home with like $300 worth of stuff. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
the same case when you go to the bookstore too. It's
yeah.
like, okay, I got $100 for books, and you come home with $300 worth of books.
Oh, fair. Yeah, fair warning. This may impoverish you, but you will be rich on the inside.
That's right. That's right.
Uh,
Okay. And again, too, we've talked about how-to books and that sort of stuff, but there are other really cool books too. We've kind of touched on just a little bit. This is another one of my favorites right now that I've read, was All the President's Gardens.
Oh,
This
wow.
one's a really kind of exploration of White House gardens throughout all of the years.
Oh my
This
God.
is this is a book by Marta McDowell, and I'd love to have her on to talk about this book. This is just one of the things. And again, I've just been one of those people who's been fascinated with civics and all that sort of stuff. So when it comes down to the idea of the history of the White House and all of that sort of stuff, I found this book to be completely fascinating. They have a tree that's still there, and I think I'm not even sure. I was reading back just a little while ago, but I think they've actually been looking to remove it, but it was planted by Thomas Jefferson and been
Wow.
growing there all this time, and I think the roots are getting into the pipes and all that sort of stuff, that they're having to deal with and everything. But there are tons of these just great things that are added on by each of our presidents throughout the years in our White House, in the White House gardens and everything too. So this is a really, really great book if anybody's kind of fascinated with those sort of things and our history and everything too. So I recommend that one for sure.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that one. I would be really intrigued to read that. I love that kind of stuff in the the rich stories that go along with gardens and gardening traditions is really interesting too.
Yeah, it's really, really great. And let's see here. I'll try to run through a few just real quick. I know we're kind of running down on time now. I got so many books here. I could talk all day about every single one of them, but I just want to run down a few favorites real quick. Last year we do, and you can check on our YouTube page for a link to our show that we had with Christy Wilhelmy. This is a book called Garden Variety, and this is where we explore um, fiction books,
Yeah.
fiction books in gardening. She put together a really fun story with a bunch of characters surrounding a community garden down in Los Angeles, and an issue that they have to deal with one of the neighbors who just doesn't really like their garden there.
Mm,
So there's all sorts of stuff, all sorts of great characters and different things and ins and outs of, if anybody's been involved in a community garden too, it's a bunch of characters anyways, right? In a
yeah.
community garden, and we all have different different things that we're doing and all of that, and it just really explores all that stuff really, really well. I love this book and recommend that always whenever I can, and hopefully we'll have her back here again soon to maybe talk about this. In fact, she's actually working on a sequel to the book too. Should be coming up soon too. So maybe we'll
Wow.
be looking at exploring that with her as well. Um, let's see here. Oh, another really, really big book that I'm using recently right now is Worms Eat My Garbage.
Oh, that's a great one. Mary Applehoff, right?
Yep, Mary Applehoff, and also it was re-edited by Joanne Olszewski,
Mm.
and then it's got a forward by Amy Stewart there in the
Oh,
middle.
yeah.
And in fact,
Well,
I know you got that copy of the book by Amy Stewart there, right? I
here,
don't have mine, so
moved, right? There we go.
yes, The Earth Moved. I got that book just right over there. I forgot to bring it over here. But again, worms, I want to talk about that, and hopefully maybe even have Amy Stewart on to talk about that one or something too. But I just started with doing my own worm bins this year. This
Mm.
last fall, started building up some of my own worm bins so that I can, grow and harvest my own worm castings. And worm castings are just, they're just an invaluable garden gold if you can, if you have the ability to make your own garden or worm castings. And that's one of the things I'm going to explore this year. The only thing I'm going to amend my garden with throughout the year is going to be worm compost tea that I make from my own fresh worm castings grown from my own worms that I'll harvest out and everything. So by creating that system, I'm going to create kind of a locked-in system where I'm not paying for any of my fertilization. So hopefully that works really well, and I'm sure it will. But and then we'll be able to explore that throughout the year on our Urban Gardener channel as well too. But I've been utilizing Worms Eat My Garbage as the base of all of the things that I've been doing in my worm farming,
I'm,
vermicomposting.
I'm right with you there. And I'm really intrigued to see what the results of your experiments are going to be. So, case in point, like the book launches you into an actual line of thought or a line of experiment in your garden. That's awesome.
Yeah. Let's see, just quickly. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible. Another great book. I mean, if you want to get into soil science and you want to dig in and really understand exactly how and what this book enlightened me so much to learn about soil science. And this is a book by Jeff Lowenfels. It's called Teeming with Microbes.
He's got 3 excellent books, right?
Yeah, I think there's like 4, maybe maybe even more, 4 that come with the teeming series.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just really great in depth and easy to read for someone who's not a soil scientist. You know
Right.
what I mean? So very easy to read. This is a great book if you want to learn a bit more about what's going on in our soil. I mean, just really it's where all the important action in our garden is happening, is right there in the earth, right there in our soil.
Yeah, those are great books. And also, just focusing on the ecology of the soil. There's so many helpers. We have so many helpers that are there for us in that soil ecosystem. So I think he's written one on soil ecology as well that I benefited from.
Yeah, awesome. Let's see here. This book, I love this book. And Luke, I don't know, I'm gonna try to get this guy someday. I've actually been in contact with him for a while, but maybe someday we'll be able to talk him into it. But I love this book so much, and you can and the title is called 20 Reasons Not to Garden, subtitled "And Why I Ignore All of Them."
Yeah.
And this is by Luke Rugenberg. I love this book. It's really fun, a really kind of funny, interesting perspective on different, trials and tribulations with gardening and all that sort of stuff. But 20 reasons uh, not to garden, and all the way, and why I ignore them all. Great book. Check that book out for sure.
We've already given them one. It's like you're going to spend all your disposable income on plants.
Exactly.
Go down.
And I do want to mention again, too, coming back to the Flower and Garden show that we first got to go to together years ago, was my chance to meet someone who I've been listening to on garden radio in the Pacific Northwest for so many years. I just totally love this guy, and he did join us. Yes, joined us this last season for our show. And again, hopefully, again, we're going to get him booked to come back on our show again this year. Cisco Morris is probably one of the most funniest, entertaining gardener there is out there. I mean, if you get a chance to go on YouTube and look up Cisco Morris on YouTube and go watch some clips, some gardening talks or different things that they might have. Anything you watch on him, you're going to love it. This guy is amazing. And we've had a chance to go see him talk live a couple of times together. And isn't that just a hoot, Mark?
The house down. His latest book is, he was talking about his latest book. This one's called Ask Cisco, that I think you have.
Yeah.
And his latest book is called Ooh La La, which is one of his big expressions. And it's all his stories. This one is all tips and answers to garden questions. But I think his latest one is all stories. And believe me, he is a master storyteller. And we'll have you doubled over in laughter all the while you're learning. It's just, he's amazing.
You know what? In fact, let's work on trying to maybe get him for a book club.
Oh, we got to get Cisco.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Lauren, we got to get Cisco.
We're going to work on that, everybody. I mean, I'm telling you, you're going to love it. Go back and check out our interview with Cisco Morris that we did last year. Cisco's just an amazing gardener.
I mean, we're not going to have anything to say for the hour because he's just going to start in, and there'll be want to stop him because we'll be laughing so much.
Yes. And then another thing too, there's an aspect of gardening that comes up a lot, but I don't think we really talk about it that much when it comes to those of us who make and create gardening content. And that is really the mental side of gardening. The idea, that the world is stressful, man. Things in life. I mean, if we're working a job, we're doing things, things we're dealing with at home, society, which one of the things I try to do the most is I try to keep the news off in my house, because it just really starts to rack my brain on things. And just all these sort of, stressors that are out there, and one of these books that I found, and we talked with this last year on our show too, is this book called Leave Your Troubles Behind.
Nice.
And this is by Karen Hugh, and she's from the Pacific Northwest. And she explores all of these great, cool things you can do and projects and all these just sort of really great stories and things on the kind of therapeutic side of gardening and growing plants. Just really great book.
Yeah, we all feel it to some point, so it must be interesting to see it all spelled out.
Yes. Let's see here. I want to run down, just running down with some of our guests we've had before real quick. Saving Seeds. This is from Seeds and Their Keepers, a collection of seed-saving stories that was collected by Bevan Cohen. He has a really great podcast called Seeds and Weeds, that you can find at smallhousefarm.com. But he's just really, his writing really explores a lot of the stories behind some of these great heirloom seeds and traditions of saving seeds and all of that. This is just a really, really good read as well, too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We touched a little bit on community gardening. One of the things I hear about a lot too from people is that they don't have community gardens around them. Well, if you don't have a community garden around you and you really love gardening and you got the energy to do it, get in and go start a community garden. This is by Lamanda Joy. It's Start a Community Garden. And this is really a great step-by-step community garden resource book. It tells you all about how to work with your city, how to work with different community members and all of that sort of stuff in order to be able to start a community garden in your own community. I think that's great. I think we need more of those. Yeah, community gardens. This is a great place, is what you talk about. You see right at the top of the screen there, building community through gardening. And one
Yeah.
of those great places you can find community is in a good community garden. And if there isn't one near you, go start one. Go start a community garden for sure.
Yeah, gardening is a political act, or it can be, and bringing people together. What a wonderful thing in your community around gardening, around healthy food.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And another guest we had on this last year was The Modern Homestead Garden by Gary Pilarchik.
Mm.
Gary Pilarchik's a very popular YouTube gardener. He's someone that I started watching his shows and videos and all of that years and years ago when I first came to YouTube to start learning about gardening. And there's still things that I'm utilizing around my house and in my garden that I learned from Gary Pilarchik. And this book is really, really great resource to the modern homestead garden. So check that out, as well as one of my favorite interviews I did this last year. One of my favorite interviews was with Ashley Thomas, the Mocha gardener. And this is just a great kind of beginning gardening book, kind of an idea to explore this new fascination with gardening that you have. And it's called How to Become a Gardener.
Nice.
And find empowerment in creating your own food security. This is by Ashley Thomas. This is a really, really great book. And again, if you want to check out the video, go to our YouTube homepage. You can find that interview with Ashley Thomas, and it was an awesome discussion. Again, somewhere like a kind of reeling from yesterday, was just having a great discussion that we get to have with all these awesome gardeners that we feature on our show, the Let's Get Growing show. And Ashley was wonderful. That book is amazing, and just really think that's something that everybody should get. And I think that's a pretty good rundown of the books I had set aside. Do you have any more books you want to talk about there, Mark? Real quick before we head up.
There's too many actually, and I can already see that this book club is going to run for about 20 years. So we're going to be able to stop eating, because we got to review the books from the past that are good, and then there's going to be a whole slew coming out. So it's just going to be I think we're just in it for life. I guess that's the way to go.
I know. I mean, we've set this up, the MBC with MBC, which is a monthly book club with Marc Boucher-Colbert. But you know what? We might almost have to change that M to a W soon, maybe, because it might have to be a weekly book club with all of these books we love, right?
Yeah.
But no, we're gonna stick with that monthly book club. And real quick,
time to read the book, so
yeah. Definitely. And real quick here too, I just want to also say this one more time because we're getting down to it. We're going to do this here in just a second here. If you haven't already, jump into the comment section right now and put in hashtag book club if you haven't already. And what we're going to do here in just a moment is we're going to draw for a winner of a signed copy of Ellen Zakos's Foraging for Wild Foods Without Dying. This is going to be our very first book club book that we're going to
be on the third Sunday of April, right?
Third Sunday of April. That's what you, and again, too, don't be confused right now by we're in the second Sunday this week. And again, we're gonna have Gardner Scott on next week for the third Sunday. But we're gonna flip that around in April, and that's the way it's gonna go for the rest of the year. Is second Sunday with our friend Gardner Scott, and third Sunday we're gonna do our gardening book club. And again, this new one is the Foraging for Wild Foods Without Dying from Ellen Zakos. And again, I did put a link down below to a link there where you can go and purchase a copy for yourself if you're not our lucky winner here in just a moment.
Yeah, let's see who it's going to be.
All right, let's see here. I'm going to check the comments, make sure we've got everybody in here. I want to give everybody just a moment if there's anybody watching now who hasn't already. And let's see. And what I'm going to have to do is put this in here. That should move us over there. Book club, hashtag book club. All right. So we've got some entries in there. And then what we're going to do too here is, let me put this up real quick too. Or actually, no, we'll do that in just a moment. That's what we'll do. We'll do that in just a moment. Okay. So again, let's check out and see one more. I know I saw one more came in just to make sure. Okay, there we go. Jay even got in there. All right, good. Awesome. So I think we got everybody here. And if your name is drawn, okay, if your name is drawn as the winner, then what we'll have you do is send us an email here to our email for the show at letsgetgrowing@mail.com. I want to make sure to emphasize that's at mail.com, not Gmail. And a lot of people have Gmails. This is at mail.com. So just send me an email with shipping instructions and all that sort of stuff, and we'll be able to get that book out to you here real soon. Okay, double check again here. All right. Okay, so I'm not seeing any more there. So again, I think we're going to go ahead and get her done. I've got to move over to this page real quick, and then we'll draw our winner here. Let's see, who do we got? Who is going to be our winner? All right, Rochelle at Brampton Gardner. You're going to be our winner of our very first monthly garden book club selection. It's going to be a signed copy from Ellen Zakos, Forage for Wild Foods Without Dying.
That's
so
important.
Awesome.
That's really important.
Right. So, all right. So, just send me in fact, you know what? I might have that already, but anyways, just send me your shipping information there to letsgetgrowing@mail.com. And congratulations to Rochelle over at Brampton Gardner, the winner of our book club. Awesome.
Let me just say this too, while I'm looking at Ellen Zakos's information on the back of the book. If you want to connect with some of the stuff she's doing, she's got a website at backyardforager.com, and then on Instagram at the Backyard Forager. She also has a podcast called Plant Rama, which looks great. I mean, just the way she was so engaging with her stories that she was telling about this book at her presentation. I'm going to listen to some of that podcast too in preparation for next month's discussion.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really looking forward to that as well. And to dig into the subject of foraging and all of that. Just, I think it's just going to be really, really great. Great addition to what we're doing here at the Let's Get Growing show, and with our whole new Sunday edition of the show. So definitely great, definitely awesome to get this all started, man. Here we are. We've just launched it.
Started it.
And I know you're truly excited, as I am too. I hope everybody else is really excited about that. And again, too, look forward to that. And definitely go down into the description for all of you who are following along right now and want to join in with us in the book club. Also, as well, too, as I mentioned, go and check out our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing group. There's a link down below as well, too. And I'll also be putting some information out there as well for our book club that you can follow along there as well too, and to keep up to date with everything. And definitely go get your copy of Ellen Zakos's Foraging for Wild Foods Without Dying, and join with us this next month. It's going to be, let me get the actual date here real quick. It is the third Sunday of the month next month, but it will be the 21st of April. So the 21st of April will be the third Sunday, and you can join with us then, as we'll have on with us Ellen Zakos to talk all about this book and to really, really dig into foraging for wild foods.
So you get a bonus week to read this month. You got 5 weeks instead of 4.
That's right. You get a bonus week. There you go. That's great. Even though we lost an hour.
Yeah, we lost gained a week. So there you go.
That's right. Lost an hour, gained a week.
That's a good trade.
That's a great trade. So, all right, Mark, man, really awesome for you to come back and join with us here again and get back into the Let's Get Growing show. Just a really great new feature we've got with this book club, and I really look forward to what we got coming up with it with you.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna start digging into that book right away, and I can't wait to just see all the different titles we're gonna cover. It's gonna be quite a conversation, quite a learning journey, and I know, my gardening is going to increase, and I hope everyone has that same feeling, and I hope we get lots of folks joining us on this journey. It's going to be really rich.
Excellent, excellent. All right, everyone. So we'll be moving on here. I'm gonna make sure that's the fun part of doing all of this, is make sure I'm hitting the buttons right. But again, thanks again, Mark, for just, again, fun discussion today, just really loose and talking about all of our favorite books and getting to explore and talk a little bit more about the In the Garden segment. I do want to remind everybody we're going to have that In the Garden segment each and every Sunday, even though Mark's going to be joining with us live on those third Sundays of the month, so we can get in the garden with him and the monthly book club.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you, Enoch. Really appreciate it.
All right. All right. We'll see you next week, Mark.
Okay, take care.
All right. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants, and author, Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
So, all right, definitely. And if you go and check out ivorganics.com, be sure to use our promo code GROW10 to get 10% off. And definitely go get some of that 3-in-1 plant guard if you haven't already. I'm telling you, this is an essential thing that you should have in your gardening shed. You got to have this. This is great, especially if you're growing trees. But the 3-in-1 plant guard is a really awesome organic way of protecting your plants, again, from all that sun scald if you're in a hot region, cold winters if you're in a cold region, and anywhere if you're dealing with some of those little nasty pests and all that sort of stuff. So the 3-in-1 plant guard is really awesome. Be sure to use that code GROW10, GROW10, if you do check that out. And I see, I'm not sure if Brampton was there to see, but I do want to tell you, make sure that we're telling Brampton Gardener, you did win our book for our Book of the Month Club. You are our big winner. So be sure to come and send me an email at letsgetgrowing@mail.com. That's mail.com, not gmail.com, but mail.com. All right. And here we are. Just what another great show. Really kind of really could have a lot of fun today just talking about books and exploring our new segment and our new Sunday edition of the show, and just really great to see everybody here having fun and joining along with us here as well too. Let's see here. We'll do again too, just make a real quick rundown with everything that we got going on for the show. Next Sunday, again, we will have Marc back with us live for the In the Garden segment and talking, we're going to dig into what he's got growing on there. And then we will have with us, joining us for our Sunday Q&A with our good friend Scott Wilson from the Gardener Scott channel. He'll be joining with us, and we'll be talking about all sorts of different things growing on, what we got going on this year in our gardens. And if you've got any sort of issues or any sort of things, garden questions at all, definitely come and join us for this discussion. Gardener Scott is just an amazing wealth of gardening knowledge, and I'm just really excited about having him on with us each and every month for what will be the second Sunday of the months as we flip that around for this next month in April. So definitely looking forward to that. And then again too, for our Saturday show, remember we got our this is both Saturday and Sunday now. We've got next week joining us as our featured guest is going to be Jenna Bonnarant of Growfully with Jenna. Jenna is one of my favorite YouTube gardeners. I love watching her channel, and I'm really excited about having her on the show to talk all about her gardening, talk about her channel, all of that sort of stuff with Jenna. So that's going to be really fun. We'll also have with us for our Are You Following Me segment, Sow and Tear. We'll introduce you to them and their channel and all the things that they've got growing on in their gardens as well. So that's going to be really fun. And again, like I said, too, definitely get down into the description below for a link to the book by Ellen Zakos, Foraging for Wild Foods, that will be featuring in this coming month's monthly gardening book club that we're just really excited about. And then too, like I mentioned as well, on all those other Sundays, some Sundays there's some months there's 4, some months there's 5. So there'll be at least a couple of Sundays a month, maybe even 3 Sundays a month, where we'll get together in these gardening roundtables that we're going to do as well too. And we'll have the first of those on the 24th. That'll be I believe no, that's not the last Sunday of the month, but it'll be our the 4th Sunday of this month. So we'll have with us our good friend Christopher Bransdahl from Norway, and our other good friend from Texas, Kang Starr, from the Pepper Lovers community. I have both of those guys on each and every year too, so we've got it lined up just right for the first week of spring. We usually do like this first day of spring live stream we've done over the last few years, so we kind of moving it on into our roundtable discussions, and we'll talk about that first week of spring and all of the things that we're looking forward to growing in our gardens this coming year. So we've got lots and lots of really awesome stuff going on right here on the Let's Get Growing show. So I want to make sure that you guys all get out there and make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, click the bell notifications to be notified of all of our upcoming shows that we have and all of our upcoming guests and everything. And then definitely be sure to share with your garden friends, your garden groups out there. Get the word out about Let's Get Growing. We've got so many cool, awesome things and awesome gardening discussions, authors, YouTubers, Instagrammers, all sorts of people coming and joining with us to explore the wonders of gardening and all of that as well too, as we're, like I say, building community through gardening here on the Let's Get Growing show. So definitely come and join along with us each and every week. And also definitely, also, as I said, to check out all of the links down below. And real quick here before I head out, I want to make sure I'm looking in and saying goodbye to everybody. Thanks again, Brampton Gardner, for joining with us, and congratulations on winning our very first book. And we'll get that signed copy out to you real soon here. And let's see here. And again, thank you, Sam, for joining with us, and everybody else who was here this week for our first Sunday edition here on the Let's Get Growing show. And everybody, I've had such a great day. Really, really excited about what's to come. And I can't wait to see all of you next week, starting on Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with the Let's Get Growing show. And then Sunday, same time, same place for our Sunday edition. We'll see you all then.